let's dive into the pretty confusing world of global trade because something really strange is happening. The Supreme Court just handed President Trump a major loss on tariffs, which you'd think would mean tariffs go down, right? Well, they're actually going up. So what on earth is going on? I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? It's a total paradox. The highest court in the U.S. says the president's tariffs are a no-go. And then, just days later, he comes out and announces new, even higher tariffs. How is that even possible? And more importantly, what does this tell us about the real strategy here? All right, so to really get what's happening now, we have to rewind just a little bit and look at the legal battle that Trump just lost. Because on the surface, this ruling looked like it completely tied his hands on trade policy. So the administration's original game plan was all based on this law called the IEEPA. The idea was, by declaring a national emergency, the president had the power to put these huge tariffs on countries all over the world. And you know what? For a while, it actually worked. But then the Supreme Court stepped in and basically said, whoa, not so fast. They ruled that using the IEEPA like this was a huge overreach of presidential power. The court made it super clear. According to the Constitution, the power to set taxes and tariffs, that belongs to Congress, not the president. It's a textbook separation of powers issue, and on this one, the president lost big time. And look, this wasn't just some abstract legal argument. We are talking about an absolutely massive amount of money. Up to $170 billion in tariffs were collected under this policy that's now been ruled invalid. The huge question now is whether the U.S. government is going to have to pay all that money back to the American companies who paid it. And honestly, nobody knows yet.
So, with his main legal tool taken away, the president's next move was to announce a new tariff. But this one was really different. At first, it looked like a pretty weak response, almost a step backward.
The administration basically went digging through the legal toolbox and pulled out this other law, Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. And this became the new reason for a global tariff, announced almost right after the court's decision.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Just look at the difference in scale. The old tariffs under IEEPA, they were pretty much unlimited. But this new tool, Section 122, it comes with a hard cap. The tariff can't go any higher than 15%.
And there's an even bigger catch. This is not a long-term plan. The law is crystal clear on this. Any tariff under the section automatically expires after just 150 days. It's a temporary patch at best.
So this brings us right to the key question. Why would you go through all this trouble for a limited tariff that's just going to disappear in 5 months? It seems kind of pointless, right? So is this the whole story? Oh no, not even close. Okay, and this is where we get to the real heart of it. That 150-day tariff, that's not the actual plan. It's just step one in a much bigger, much more clever strategy to get around the Supreme Court's ruling entirely. In fact, the president himself basically told us this was coming. Right after the ruling, he said flat out, we have a backup plan. That temporary tariff, that's the backup plan kicking into gear. It's not the destination, it's the bridge to get to the real destination. So here it is, the whole strategy in 3 steps. Step 1, buy time. That's what the 150-day tariff is for. Step 2, use that time to build a new legal case by launching investigations into pretty much every U.S. trading partner. And then step 3, use the findings from those investigations to justify brand new, permanent, and, you guessed it, unlimited tariffs under a completely different law. This next part, this global investigation phase, this is the real weapon in the administration's arsenal. And it all comes down to one little section of an old law. And here it is, Section 301. It's actually part of that same 1974 Trade Act, but it is incredibly powerful. It gives the president the green light to investigate any trade practice by any country that he decides is unfair, and then to retaliate however he sees fit. And this table, this just lays it all out perfectly. Look, the old tool, IEPA, was unlimited and indefinite, but the court killed it. The temporary tool, Section 122, is weak and runs out fast. But the new plan, using Section 301, gets them right back to where they started. The power to impose unlimited tariffs for an indefinite amount of time. The only catch? They have to do an investigation first. So what can trigger one of these investigations? Well, that's the thing. Almost anything. The administration could point to another country's own tariffs or their drug prices or concerns about forced labor. And that last one, any practice deemed discriminatory, I mean, that's a catch-all that's so broad you could drive a truck through it.
So let's just be crystal clear about what's happening. The whole point of this entire strategy is to build a brand new legal justification for the exact same tariff policy that the Supreme Court just said was illegal. It's a strategic end run designed to make that ruling totally irrelevant.
Okay, so that's the complicated legal and political chess game. But what does all this maneuvering actually mean for businesses, for us as consumers, and for the global economy as a whole? And you're probably thinking, wait a minute, if the Supreme Court said this power belongs to Congress, why doesn't the president just, ask Congress to pass a law? It's a perfectly logical question, and the answer comes down to some very simple, very tricky political math. See, to pass any bill in a House of Representatives, you need 218 votes. With the current majority being this razor thin, the administration literally cannot afford to lose a single vote from its own party on a bill as controversial as tariffs. Trying to get this through Congress is just way too risky. So the potential fallout from this strategy is pretty huge. For us as consumers, it most likely means higher prices on all sorts of goods. For businesses, it's more chaos for global supply chains. And on the world stage, it almost guarantees that other countries, like in the EU and China, will hit back with their own tariffs, which just leads to more and more uncertainty for everyone. Which leaves us with the big question. Is this incredibly complex legal strategy to sidestep the Supreme Court a brilliant masterstroke of policy, or is it a really high-stakes gamble that could throw the entire global economy into even more chaos? That's the question we'll all be watching to see answered.